You probably already saw that Dan Houser, the co-founder of Rockstar Games and Sam Houser's brother, who's actually the CEO of Rockstar Games at the moment, has given an interview to Lex Fridman. I'll leave a link down in the description so you can watch it yourself, but we'll go over the main most interesting parts of that interview, that are about GTA 6 and Rockstar Games as a whole. But before we start, I wanted to ask you to leave a like on this video and subscribe to my channel, because I'm trying to hit 1000 subscribers by the end of this year, and your support is the only way it will be possible. So I think we should begin with what Dan Houser said about GTA 6 being the biggest launch in gaming history, the reason why and what were the goals of Rockstar Games when creating games, and how the gaming industry is just going to continue growing with time, becoming better and more complex in the future.
I think GTA 5 had the biggest launch in video game history, and GTA 6 has the potential to topping that. First of all, do you think it will? And more broadly, what was your definition of success for a video game?
I would assume it will, because it's so anticipated, and anticipation is the best driver of early sales. As we saw with GTA 4 versus Red Dead Redemption 1, GTA 4 far more anticipated, sold much better early on. So I would assume it will sell really well. That was never my definition of success, but you certainly wanted to make money. You're spending someone's money. So the number one success is, are you making that money back plus $1? At some level, that has to be the single most important thing. So you get to do it again. You've got big teams of people need to pay the rent. You have to keep the lights on in the business. So you have to make a small profit. If you think in that way, that keeps you being creative. I think that was like trying to forget about that. It's not really an option. But we almost always did that. We didn't quite always do that, but we almost always did that. I think the definition of success for me was, had we tried to do new things and done them, or achieved some of our goals. That was the thing that I'm at. And were people responding to these worlds and these characters in a way that I wanted them to?
Is it crazy to you that video games are able to make billions of dollars when, if you look at like the 80s and 90s, nobody took video games seriously, and even in the aughts, and now they're basically, it's very possible if we look at 10, 20 years from now, that video games surpass film as a way to consume stories.
I think they've possibly already done that in some ways. And certainly as a business proposition, they've already done that. But I think that's not, as a way of telling stories, I think they're better at telling certain kinds of stories, and films are better at other kinds of stories. I think if you want a long discursive adventure, a video game is better. If you want a short, tight experience, a film is better. We always felt games were the coming medium, and so spent 20 years saying games are the future, and being sneered at, them being laughed at, having people nod their heads, and then it kind of happening. So I would, at the same time, much as you might say something, you don't necessarily believe it's going to be true. But it has become true. And I think still the games are only going to get better, more interesting, more creatively, diverse.
Dan Houser also answered the reason why GTA 6 is so awaited, why people really want to see it come out, and the excitement for the game.
Why do you think there was so much excitement about GTA 4, GTA 5, and now GTA 6?
Because they don't come out that regularly. And I think we did a really good job of constantly innovating within what the IP was. The games always felt different. People have very strong feelings. I like this one. I didn't like that one as much, because they are pretty different. So there would be simultaneously where what's going to happen. It's a Grand Theft Auto, it's going to be a game about being a criminal, but the way it's going to be a game is going to change quite a lot. So I think the way the IP kept evolving meant people being really excited to play it. And we were good at marketing them as well. We really tried to market them in a way that felt like an update of classic film marketing, where you really felt like you're already in the product just because you'd seen the trailers and stuff.
So, as you understand, they try to innovate all the time. And obviously we know that, because if you played a couple of Rockstar's games, from the oldest to the newest titles, especially Red Dead Redemption 2, then you would see the amount of things that have changed over time, and how detailed and innovative those games are, because they are bringing so much new to the industry and the gaming world. It's just insane, they're on another level. And he also gave his comments about GTA 6 returning to Vice City.
What's it feel like Grand Theft Auto 6 returning to Vice City? This is over 20 years later, but the original GTA Vice City game was set in the 80s. So maybe inspired by Scarface a little bit?
Scarface, Miami Vice,
Miami Vice.
and our 80s childhoods. You know, what I realized quite a while ago, unfortunately, was that we made that game and it was set, I think, in 86, and we made it in 2002, so it's 16 years after. And now it's way past 16 years since Vice City came out. So it was, the 80s were not that long ago when we made it.
You know, I think Miami is one of the most unique cities in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're thinking about it satirizing American culture. It has this duality of a glossy surface and a dark underworld. It has the influencers, it has the crypto bros, the yachts, bikinis, plastic surgery, sports cars, drugs, cartel cash, luxury, super rich people, and the desperately poor, just the whole of it. Would it be like the perfect city to explore the full cast of characters that are possible, that human nature can generate?
I think it's one of them. You know, there's a reason why GTA kept coming back to Miami, New York, Los Angeles. I think they're all very good for exactly what you laid out. You know, you could say move it to any of those and it would work. You know,
So yeah, there's a melting pot aspect to New York also, right?
Yeah, melting pot aspect to LA. You know, there's
Yeah.
glitz, glamour, underbelly, immigrants. You know, enormous wealth in all of them. I think those are what I think are really fun for any, not even just for GTA, but for anything where you want a kind of slice of life, almost like a sort of psychotic version of a Dickens book. You know, this big slice of life. He did it with London. You know, this psychotic version of these, you know, big all kinds of characters in a melting pot. Any of these global cities work well for that.
Denhauser also went on why Vice City is a good choice. And as Lex Fridman also said in the interview, Vice City, as Los Angeles, as New York, and other cities that were used in GTA games, they are melting pots of various types of people. From rich to poor, to crazy, to very smart, talented, and so on. The variety is huge. That's why Miami is a great pick for GTA game. To make it really fun, interesting for players, and to satire on American culture. And of course, you know, the Florida Man meme, it's gonna be a great place. Denhauser also commented his thoughts about the pressure on creating such incredible and anticipated games by a huge gaming community. He gave his perspective on that point, which is a pretty interesting one, so listen.
There's an insane level of excitement and expectation for Grand Theft Auto 6. Same was true for GTA 5 and GTA 4, and even before that. And you and the team delivered every time. How difficult was it to do creative work under such pressure, where everyone expects this to be a success?
I was pretty good at compartmentalizing, you know, and it just saying, and I try just to go, and when with all creative work, I go, well, I feel like a terrible fraud, but I haven't been found out yet. Just do my best, and hopefully I won't be found out this time. And just if I can go, I tried hard with the work. I tried to do it with integrity. I tried not to copy someone else. Probably done all of the above. You know, try to bring something new to it. And we as a group made something we are proud of. Then that's enough. You can't, if you don't want to go insane, or if I didn't want to go insane, I couldn't sit there and worry about financial results. You know, if we made something great and it didn't sell, that would have to be okay. Because the goal is to make something that's, you know, video games are expensive, so it is a sort of commercial form of creativity. It's a commercial art form, you know, so you have to be in mind you're spending large amounts of someone else's money. You have to try and make it back for them. But at the same time, my argument with myself was, well, the way to make it back is try and make something great. So both pressures are pointing in the same direction. I think GTA 4 was very pressured because there'd been all this pressure on the company. The company nearly imploded several times due to hot coffee. It was extremely tough. So I think that felt very stressful. GTA 3, the company was basically broke, but I was young. I didn't really care. You know, I wasn't living in the grown up world yet. All of them had their own pressure. All of the games had their own pressure. All the more I felt I'd gone into it creatively and tried to be more ambitious. For me personally, I felt more pressure. You know, when it came out that would have been the right choice. Because again, if you're trying to take big swings creatively and you've spent a lot of money, that can be quite stressful. I think with Red Dead 2, when we were behind schedule, we were over budget so much I didn't want to think about it. And you're making a game about a cowboy dying of TB and the game's not coming together. Turns out a lot of people doubt you at that moment. It's not that fun. So I think that was a lot of pressure. But anything, and if you're doing something new, the new stuff, there's not necessarily pressure on releasing a comic book or in the same way because it's not taken as long. But if you're making things, there's always pressure that people are going to like it.
He also gave his comments on why they have not really experimented with different locations, different countries other than the United States. Of course, as you know, they made GTA London a lot of time ago, but that really doesn't count, so he gave a pretty valid reason.
Do you know if that was ever consideration to go elsewhere to like a London?
We made a little thing in London 26 years ago, GTA London, for the top down for the PS1. That was pretty cute and fun as the first mission pack ever for PlayStation 1. I think for a full GTA game, we always decided it was there was so much Americana inherent in the IP, it would be really hard to make it work in London or anywhere else. You needed guns, you needed these larger than life characters. It just felt like the game was so much about America. Possibly from an outsider's perspective, but that was so much about what the thing was that it wouldn't really have worked in the same way elsewhere.
He also shared his thoughts on letting go of the GTA franchise and especially GTA 6, how he felt the fact that he is not a part of a team anymore, that he doesn't participate in the creation of GTA 6 and obviously future games that Rockstar going to have. His comments are pretty interesting as well.
So you've created, I don't know how many, over 10 Grand Theft Auto games.
I think so.
I have to ask, is it a little bit bittersweet to say goodbye to the Grand Theft Auto world and having to watch Grand Theft Auto 6 released? Or is it more excitement? What's the feeling?
I think it's how would I describe it? Of course, it's all of the above. It's exactly as pleased to be doing other stuff, excited for what we're working on now, super excited. Of course, letting go of something I worked on it one way or another for like 20 odd years, and wrote on them for the last 10 or 11 that came out, wrote all of them, or, lead writer on all of them, whatever it was. So of course, letting go of that is is a big change and a lot and sad in a way, because each of the games was a kind of standalone story. It's not quite the same as I think probably it would be in some ways sadder if someone continued on Red Dead because it was a cohesive 2-game arc. That might be more sad to hear someone working on that. But again, that will probably happen too. I don't own the IP. That was the sort of part of the deal. It's a privilege to work on stuff, but you don't necessarily own it.
When you're done with the game, does it always feel like a goodbye? Like when you're done with Red Dead 2, is like you're saying goodbye to Arthur? Like the characters you created, you're walking away.
You kind of are saying goodbye to Arthur in the end of the game, even before the end of the game. Yeah, I think you've got, I've been with them for 7, 8 years and you have to kind of let it go or you can't go on to the next one.
Yeah.
So there's always this thing of okay, that's done. And sometimes people would ask me questions about older games. And certainly when I was in the middle of making new ones in the set, I couldn't really necessarily even remember. I've got a pretty good memory normally because you kind of have to let it go. So it's you're so immersed in it and thinking about it, and certainly in that last period, the last few months, you're really, really immersed in every little nuance and every little detail all of the time, and then you're just not thinking about it in the same way.
Yeah, it's funny from the player perspective. It feels like an old friend that I miss, whether it's John or Arthur or Nico. It's a real goodbye. There's a real sadness to finishing a video game.
I
Like
hope so.
legitimately a sad experience, not just because the story is sad or
Because you've been with them so long.
yeah, and it's a real goodbye to close it. There's that feeling when you're sort of close the video game. And it's like saying goodbye to a friend. And
That's when you finish a book you love. It's the same feeling.
Same feeling.
And I think that was something that we really in the early days of Rockstar really aspired to have that, where people would have that. It wasn't just the mania of clearing a level, but the feeling of saying goodbye to characters. You know, I think that was something we really wanted to achieve in games that we didn't know was even possible. So to hear people say that is incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, the end of On the Road by Kerouac,
Mhm.
Forlorn Rags have grown old. I just remember closing that and thinking, what the fuck am I doing in this big world? It's a melancholic feeling, but there's nothing like that feeling. And you've achieved it. It's so rare in video games to be able to achieve that with Red Dead. And for me, it was Grand Theft Auto 4 with Nico.
So, as you understand, Denhauser had pretty strong feelings for the games because while writing and creating the game, and as players, you get connected to the character. And especially as a creator, I think that when you are building character story, all the details, how the character lives, his past, his future, his present, you are being connected to the character. And when you spend years building the game and then you have to move on to the next project, I believe it's sometimes hard to let go of that, because you get connected to the character, as Denhauser said. Well, that's it for Denhauser's comments on GTA 6 and how they created games while he was working at Rockstar Games. Now, as you know, he has his own company that is called Absurd Ventures. He is creating his own games now, but that interview was an interesting one and I hope you really enjoyed this video. Those were the most important parts of the interview in my opinion, that were regarding GTA 6 obviously, but the whole interview and what Denhauser says is really nice to hear too. If you want to do it, you can go and watch the whole interview on Lex Fridman's channel. I left a link in the description. And if you enjoyed my video, please leave a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.